Good Thursday morning. This is Dan Earhart with the rest of the news, and the moon is new as Captain James T. Kirk of the USS Enterprise celebrates his 81st trip around the sun. Today, the Federal Aviation Administration predicts that space tourism, the final frontier, will be a $1 billion industry within 10. And at today's prices, that won't take long. Ashton Kutcher just bought a ticket for $200,000. Making him the 500th person to book a seat on the Virgin Galactic, owned and operated by Sir Richard Branson, who asked President Obama for a spliff the other night at the black tie White House dinner for David Cameron. Right now is being compared to the early days of flight, right after the Wright brothers, the beginning of the golden age of spaceflight. Does that mean you won't have to haul your own luggage to a crowded overhead bin compartment before you're offered a complimentary meal choice, seafood or vegan entree, lightly steamed broccoli? Back down on Earth, Jay Mayton of Aspen, Colorado is chilled out, and he's not even mad at the guy who stole his Trek bicycle the other night. The anonymous temporary thief parked the bike by the police station the very next day with a note attached that said, "Sorry, I stole this bike. I rode it home. Please give it back. Drunk." Just signed, drunk. Which is what happened to a fellow one night last week in Eugene, Oregon, who got drunk the night of his birthday. And at 1:30 in the morning, 90 minutes after turning 21, he crashed his car into the side of a rehab. No. Hello, universe calling. A couple of days ago, we joked around about living in 1984 now that it's finally arrived. Well, Ron Howard's Imagine Entertainment is not joking. They want to do the movie again. A Today version of the 1948 book by George Orwell about life in 1984, set in a dystopian society in a perpetual state of war, which leads to a perpetual state of paranoia. Sound familiar? The concepts of propaganda, surveillance, and mind control were taken to new levels, and no doubt Ron Howard will do so again. It was today, in 1965, when Bob Dylan's first electric album, Bringing It All Back Home, was released. This past Monday was the 50th anniversary of the very first Bob Dylan album, released in 1962 on Columbia, called Bob Dylan. No electric guitar, total production cost $402. A new study just out shows that high levels of Facebook activity represent what's called toxic narcissism. Danger signals include having hundreds of friends and updating status frequently, and doing some kind of daily blog. Forget it, that's off the charts. Hey, and thanks to you, the rest of the news weekly page views are up again in the latest report. Narcissism, really. Elizabeth Warren is having a great week in Massachusetts. Not only is she leading her GOP opponent to reclaim the Senate seat held forever by longtime Equal Rights Amendment supporter Senator Ted Kennedy, yet another Democrat has quit the race and thrown his support behind Elizabeth. Only one Democratic challenger now remains, and candidate Warren sure has fundraising star power. Why, she raised $1 million in one day last January. And it was this day, today, in 1972, that Congress sent the Equal Rights Amendment of the Constitution to the states for ratification, which fell 3 states short of the 4/5 needed, and there it sits today, 40 years later, although still very much alive. The amendment has been reintroduced in every session of Congress since 1982. All the ERA says is, equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. Which wouldn't have helped juror number 4361 in Denver, Colorado anyway. She showed up for jury duty looking a wreck. Mismatched shoes and socks, hair in curlers, said she'd lived on the streets, suffered from post-traumatic stress. So, District Judge Ann Mansfield let her off. Well, juror 4361 just couldn't let it go. Months later, KOA 850 was having a call-in show with listeners telling about how they'd gotten out of jury duty. So, 4361 calls in and admits she had made the whole thing up. Guess who listens to KOA 850? Yeah, you got it. See you tomorrow. Dan at therestofthenews.com.